Jesus' words today is quite difficult to take in. First, because of our image of him as the Prince of Peace, Isaiah chapter 9, verse 6. And he will say to us, times without number, peace be to you. For instance, in John chapter 14, verse 27, and John chapter 20, verse 21, he kept saying, peace I give you. Not as the world gives do I give you peace. Peace be with you. And another reason we find his gospel today difficult is because of the demand, the connotation, the meaning of this gospel. So when Jesus strikes a different tone, like he did today, we really want to know what he meant. He said, do you suppose I have come to bring peace on earth? No, I have not come to bring peace, but division. Though we know that Jesus is a person of peace, Jesus is the Prince of Peace, but he is saying today that the gospel values which we are called to live by as our rule of life may cause us division. And we should be ready for that. We should be open to that. In other words, Jesus is not a proponent of peace at all cost. Peace by all means. The peace that Christ offers us, the peace that Christ brings, depends on justice, on truth, and on what is right. So the will of God, as revealed in the scriptures, is the basis for Christian unity and peace. And Jesus is saying that the truth will not always unite us, that the word of God will not always be a uniting factor. There are those who don't want to hear it. There are those who don't want to obey it. And they could be members of our own families. Maybe we look at his life for a second. There were many times when his family turned against him, thinking he was mad or possessed because of his radical commitment to his mission. If you look at the other godly people in scriptures who walked with God, how often they were set against others, including people of their own blood, of their own kin, on account of their belief in God. Joseph, for example, was sold into slavery by his own brothers simply because he believed what God has revealed to him about his future. Abel was killed by his brother Cain because he gave the best of what he had to God in sacrifice. Shadrach, Meshach, Abednego were thrown into the burning furnace by their own people because they refused to worship the same idol that most worshipped. Jeremiah, in today's gospel, as we have just read, in today's first reading, was thrown into the well because he preached the gospel. And we can go on and on and on with examples. So, Jesus is saying that our following him will set us against others and sometimes against cultures. So let's bring it home. Today, it is not strange to find families that are divided by faith. They may agree on every other thing, but when it comes to faith, when it comes to God, when it comes to the practice of faith, there seems to be division. In some families, the parents are the only ones who go to church, who pray, who worship God, who practice their faith. The children will have none of that. And sometimes the children or word will even deride their parents as being over the top or being religious, as if it is some kind of a disease. Yet this same family may do every other thing together. This is the division Jesus is saying that we should expect when we stand with him. There are families divided around different issues. The issue of protection of life and abortion. It could be economic decisions. It could be divorce in the family. It could be the abnormality of LGBTQ and all other issues. There are parents today who are living in regret because they made a fundamental choice against God by voting in some of the evils that we have today in the referenda. And simply because they could not bear the division that Jesus is talking about today. They could not bear conflict with their children or with their friends or whoever they are sympathetic for or to, and for whom they voted. But in their hearts and in their consciences, they know they have abated, they know they have aided the devil's works. They know they have chosen friendship with the world against friendship with God. This is the division Jesus is asking us. This is the division Jesus is talking about. That our stand for him will bring us into opposition with others, even our own king. And when this is the case, Jesus expects that we love him enough to stand for the truth, to stand for life, to stand for our salvation, even if it means standing alone. Jesus expects that we love him enough to choose him above any other person or any other thing. This is the fire Jesus came to bring on earth. The fire he wishes that we are already aflamed and afire with. This is what Jesus meant when he told us in Luke chapter 10, verse 17a, to love him with all our hearts, with all our minds, with all our strength. This is what Jesus meant when he said in Matthew chapter 10, verse 37, that anyone who loves father or mother more than me is not worthy of me, and anyone who loves daughter or son more than me is not worthy of me. Our love of God must take premium place in our lives, must not fall short. It is sad, to have division between relations. But this is how it will sometimes be. As long as one believes, the other remains unbelieving. So long as one is desirous to give up his sin and the other person is willing to retain and to keep his sins. I suppose the implicit challenge is that we all ensure and help one another to know God, to love God. And by so doing, we all can be on the same page, united in heart and mind. And when this happens, Jesus then becomes our unifier. Jesus becomes a uniting factor rather than dividing us. And when we have done this as well, and one of us strays, as it can sometimes happen in life, we can be sure that Christ, the Good Shepherd, whom they have known, whom they have loved, whom they have relationship with, will seek them out. He will find them. He will bring them back to the path of life, happiness, and peace. As the second reading tells us today, it is he who leads us in our faith. It is he who brings our faith to perfection.